Welcome back to Upregulate, the channel where we explore everything stem cells, gene therapies, and the future of advanced treatments. The fake pharmaceuticals market is fraught with criminal opportunists taking advantage of weak regulation, low risk of detection, and prosecution, whilst benefiting from high profit margins. A 2020 report on trade in counterfeit pharmaceutical products found the falsified medicine industry reached $4.4 billion in value in 2016, threatening public health and safety while enriching criminals and organised crime. The report came about when COVID-19 was sweeping across the planet and counterfeit medications and critical medical supplies such as hand sanitizers and face masks were flooding the world market. The 2020 report showed that no medication is safe from forgery. Fake antibiotics, painkillers, antimalarials, HIV, AIDS, cancer, and diabetes treatments, among others, are all pharmaceuticals subject to criminal counterfeiting. Primary offenders in this counterfeit industry are China and India, while the United Arab Emirates, Singapore, and Hong Kong serve as transit economies. Counterfeits are always inferior to their original counterparts in terms of quality, safety, and efficacy. Consequently, they pose an unpredictable risk to public health and lead to loss of confidence in medicines and the structure of healthcare provision. In decades prior to COVID-19, a constant trend of increased trafficking was reported. The COVID-19 pandemic created a combination of public health emergency, economic distress, and misinformation-driven panic that exacerbated the already prevalent counterfeit pharmaceuticals industry. This video aims to discuss the current scope of the counterfeit drug industry, the health impact of their use, as well as the methods to control their spread. Production of counterfeit pharmaceuticals has mainly been identified out of China and India. The industry primarily produces lifestyle expensive pharmaceuticals for high to mid-earning countries such as hormones, steroids, and psychotropic drugs, whilst in developing countries, life-saving medicines are produced like antibiotics, antimalarials, anti-tuberculosis drugs, and antiretroviral drugs. E-commerce and social media platforms, rogue pharmacies, messaging applications, and the dark web are core platforms for selling these treatments. So why are the counterfeit pharmaceuticals bought? Who is buying them and why are they in demand? This is due to a multitude of reasons, including there's a high demand for more affordable alternatives. People can't afford to buy the most expensive drugs, so they seek an alternative which is much cheaper. There's a low availability of medical products, pushing consumers to alternatives. If a drug isn't available that's desperately needed, people will find alternatives. Limited capacities to monitor products entering the supply chain. People may buy drugs not knowing that they are fake. These fake pharmaceuticals can enter the supply chain without people knowing. There's a complex import and export mechanism restricting access to genuine products. In some countries, genuine products might not be available, so that'll force people to find an alternative, and in most cases the alternative will be a fake medicine. There's a lack of law enforcement and weak national regulatory policies on the manufacturing and marketing of these medications. If law enforcement or regulations aren't in place to stop these products entering the supply chain or being sold, then they will make it to the consumer. And there's a lack of government support to make genuine products available. For these reasons, access of counterfeit products into the market is generally higher in developing countries, with West Africa and South America being the most affected areas. In 2017, the World Health Organization showed of 75 medical products from low and middle income countries, approximately 10.5% of all the pharmaceuticals were falsified. Compared this to high income countries where only 1% of drugs were potentially falsified. Since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, the threat posed by fake medicines and medical products has increased dramatically. Counterfeiters took advantage of the high market demand for medicines, personal protective equipment, and hygiene products to make lucrative profits from the sale of fake pharmaceuticals. One example is chloroquine. A consumer demand for this product increased during the pandemic. Criminal groups flooded the market with counterfeit copies. Criminal networks also carried out prescription fraud using fake paperwork to obtain chloroquine and other medicines under study licenses as potential treatments for coronavirus. Pandemonium at the height of the pandemic really took hold. People were willing and trying to use anything that could stop them from getting COVID-19, whilst also some proactively avoided vaccines. Early in the pandemic, online misinformation campaigns pushed ivermectin, essentially a horse dewormer, for treating COVID-19. While scientists and physicians largely remained skeptical, some nations adopted ivermectin as part of their pandemic control efforts. Some people desperate to use ivermectin without prescription took veterinary preparations, which led to shortages of supplies of ivermectin for animal treatment. The FDA responded to this situation with this tweet: "You are not a horse, you are not a cow," linking their information on why you should not treat COVID-19 with ivermectin. I think this pretty much sums it up. To top it all off, we had the President of the United States speaking on injecting a form of disinfectant or hitting the body with a powerful light to treat COVID-19. The pandemic exacerbated the already prevalent challenges in the pharmaceutical industry relating to counterfeiting, particularly in regulatory frameworks and supply chain issues. Experts are expressing fears that without proper actions, the world risks a parallel pandemic of counterfeit drugs and pharmaceuticals. So what should be done to prevent counterfeit pharmaceuticals? There's four main routes of preventing and taking action against counterfeit pharmaceuticals. There's a method of monitoring drugs throughout the supply chain. There's regulatory agencies that must check the pharmaceuticals in the supply chain that reach the consumer. There are next generation barcodes such as holographic or radio frequency identification devices, which can be used to identify genuine products. Laws, regulation, awareness and vigilance. Central drug regulatory authorities need to be set up in every state and every country. Counterfeit drug offences should be investigated by an independent investigation agency. Penalties must outweigh the considered benefits of counterfeiting medicines. There needs to be international collaboration. Organisations like the International Medical Products Anti-Counterfeiting Task Force, IMPACT, is promoted by the World Health Organization as a regulator to reduce the trade of counterfeit drugs in the international market. Members of this task force are from non-government organisations, manufacturers, wholesalers, healthcare professionals and national drug regulatory authorities. These type of task forces must spearhead the effort. There is an urgent need to prevent and suppress counterfeit pharmaceuticals through targeted policies. Nationally, governments must cooperate with the pharmaceutical industry to combat counterfeit trafficking. Internationally, a unified international response and harmonised pharmaceutical strategy is required to control the growing pharmaceuticals market. Globally, efforts should be made to closely monitor manufacture and sales of these products to create a transparent and secure supply chain. In the age of COVID-19, the sudden and growing need for specific medical supplies, in combination with constant disruption of the supply chain, had worsened the situation. The pandemic has highlighted the need for educating the public about the risks of using counterfeit drugs and to restore faith in the pharmaceutical industry and science. While all of the above may not fully eliminate the problem, they should substantially reduce the exposure of populations to the risks associated with the trafficking and use of counterfeit drugs in the time of COVID-19 and beyond. Thank you for listening to today's video. I mainly used 3 review papers in this video. I'll link them at the end of the video and I'll add them to the description. Thanks for watching again, and I'll catch you in the next video.